Nearly half of all LGBTQ characters are being removed from TV this season. 61% of trans characters are suddenly disappearing. Nature is healing, and I'm going to show you why.
This is the deep end.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Deep End, where we talk about the news of the day through a Christian worldview, or as I like to say, a pastoral worldview. And I'm glad that you are here on Tim Hatch Live. Sanity makes a comeback. I think we are in part 2 of a trilogy movement where we will see progressive sexuality, as we have known it for the past couple of decades in our body politic, come to an end. The facts are that LGBTQIA progressivism probably reached its high watermark under President Joe Biden from 2021 to 2025. At that time, it seemed like the whole world was going to be gay. But this movement has come and gone before, and I would like to present you a brief historical recap. See, what we're seeing today is nothing new. In ancient Phrygia, Syria, and parts of the Roman Empire, priests of Cybele, a Roman goddess, practiced ritual self-castration and adopted female dress and speech. In ancient Mesopotamia, certain Ishtar cult priests used gender-ambiguous roles in temple worship. These were religious offices, not personal identity categories at that time, but nonetheless, the marriage of religious fervor and sexual confusion was ancient. The image on screen that I just put up is a stone relief of Ishtar, the Mesopotamian goddess of fertility, sexuality, war, and power. You can see the wings and talons. The pictures of owls and lions are symbols of night, power, and predation, and also nudity. This would be a symbol of fertility to the ancient world and divine sexual power. Now, this is, again, nothing new. Ancient civilizations practiced gender bending as far as we can tell in times past. In ancient Greece, female parts were played by males in the theaters of ancient Greece. Men dressed and acted as women in their performances, sometimes sexually, to entertain the crowds. In the Roman Empire, Roman emperors such as Elagabalus in 220 AD wore women's clothing, used female titles. He even sought surgical alteration to his body to appear more feminine. Some Roman elites engaged in extreme sexual and gender-bending practices as well. By the 4th century, Christian emperors criminalized this activity. On the right, you see a composite of what was called the Strand Roman Bath, where people practiced open nudity and other open and, dare I say, prideful sexual displays in the pagan Roman Empire. Again, Christianity brought that to an end in its time. It has made resurgences throughout the centuries, particularly in Weimar Germany in the 1930s. The world's first transgender medical clinics appeared in Germany back then. There was also legal recognition for transvestites, and they carried identifying papers. The sex change experimentation was in full swing, and then there was the Institute for Sexual Science under Magnus Hirschfeld. They promoted gender fluidity and performed transgender surgeries way back in the early part of the last century. Weimar Germany's revolution lasted a brief 14 years and then collapsed overnight, and we know what happened as a result. The fact of the matter is, what we're seeing today is nothing new. Now, America sure still is in the throes of a great sexual deviant experiment. Even as recently as last year, the claim was made that nearly 30% of Gen Z adults identify as one of those letters in the alphabet squad. But is this trend fading out? The evidence suggests that it is, and that's why I suggest that it's sanity striking back. You see, people are calling it out, from Dave Chappelle and other notable comics and cultural commentators to the halls of power and our president and vice president, most particularly. Even Joe Rogan and other notable personalities who used to be on the far left are starting to call out the craziness of their own. There is a pushback against this movement, and the results are measurable. News out of Hollywood from The Wrap, a report that nearly half of all LGBTQ characters will disappear from TV next season, according to a GLAAD study. Now, due to series cancellations, 61% of trans characters will be absent from TV programming in next year's lineup. Well, where does the GLAAD movement want to lay blame? Of course, they want to lay blame at the feet of Donald Trump. The article continues saying transgender characters may be especially at risk as their right to exist has been called into question under the second Trump administration. GLAAD counted 33 transgender characters on TV this year, but only 4 appear on series that have been officially renewed. You know what I call this? I say nature is healing. We are moving on from this nonsense, as ancient and even modern cultures have learned from their own mistakes before us. And why? Because human beings tend to experiment with things in order to find out what actually works. You do this yourself in a multiplicity of ways. When you first become a parent, you experiment with punishment and discipline until you find out what works. And for your first child, God help them, because you're either too tough or too lenient, and then you learn from those mistakes in raising your second child. The same is true with dating, friendships, jobs, what you want to do with your life. We are experimenters by nature. Even socially, we experiment. We've experimented with socialism and communism and other economic forms, and America has arrived at the conclusion, at least thus far, that capitalism might not be perfect, but is way better than the alternatives. What I'm saying is, as a people, we experiment on a wide berth of opportunities and experiments. And sexuality and gender expression is just one of those areas. And thankfully, I think we are coming to the end of this failed experiment. Because here's the corollary to sexualization of our children and the next generation. They get very stupid. From the Wall Street Journal, American math education is in steep decline, with about 1 in 8 college freshmen lacking even basic high school level math skills, and students coming from remedial high school classes performing at roughly a 5th grade level. Nationally, only 22% of 12th graders, 22%, were proficient in math on the most recent NAEP exams, the lowest level ever recorded. And moreover, college students can't do elementary math. Scores from AP students from 2005 to 2025, steep declines in all subjects from English, language, and composition to macroeconomics, U.S. history, calculus, chemistry, and of course, U.S. government and politics, because in order to dominate you, the government has to make you dumber. So it looks like the trend is moving in the right direction. Hollywood is abandoning ship, if you will, of the progressive sexual deviancy that carried them to great income and wealth and prosperity in the last several decades. But it's not over yet. And Netflix is here to say to this cultural shift that is dying out, hold my beer. Coming to Netflix, December 19th, I kid you not, this show, The Queen of Coal. And what is it about? Well, you'll never guess. Believe it or not, The Queen of Coal, coming to Netflix, December 19th, is about a trans woman who dreams of working the coal mines, but in a town in West Virginia, of all places, steeped in superstition and patriarchy, Carlita must fight to earn his way underground. A trans woman fights to be a coal miner in West Virginia. I've heard it all, Netflix. Welcome back to reality. Could you please wake up and smell the coffee? Now, the movement has a long way to go in terms of reversing the trend from the last couple of decades, most notably amongst state laws concerning the banning of trans athletes. 27 states have banned trans athletes from participating in sports that are not aligned with their biological gender, and 21 states do not presently ban them, and only 2 states have some regional laws or regulations regarding that practice. Long way to go, but more than half the states do not want boys stealing trophies from girls. You might remember the story of Peyton McNabb, who suffered a severe brain injury when a boy spiked a volleyball straight into her face in a high school volleyball match in 2022. Well, her case went to court, and North Carolina now, where that happened, has put in place an official ban on trans athletes as a result. Nature is healing. But the fight is there. Don't be ignorant, parents, because there is still political advocacy from the highest levels of education at the state level. And you need to pay attention to local politics in this regard. I have on the screen this political advocacy memo from the teachers union in Washington state urging its members and the public, by the way, to oppose 2 proposed Washington state ballot initiatives for 2026. Now, these are voter ballots that are on the ballot coming up in 2026. And the teachers unions want you to oppose them. The first one is a parents' rights initiative that would expose parents to what their students are actually being taught in the classroom and also give a way of exemption for taking part in that discussion if the parents' convictions dictate so. The second ballot initiative they want to oppose would be, again, to exclude boys from participating in girls' sports. Again, hear this, the Washington teachers' unions want you to oppose an initiative to strike down the ability of biological boys to compete with biological girls. The fight is continuing in the halls of power, but I think that politics is downstream from culture. And the culture has already started to shift, and politics will follow suit. Meanwhile, considering vestiges of our past, just consider that our former president was let out of his nursing home last week to attend a gala where he received an LGBTQ award for being the most inclusive president in history.
But also to ensure that every American has access to opportunities they deserve. I want to thank those of you who are willing to put yourself on the line, willing to subject yourself and your families to the public scrutiny and the attacks that sure will come your way in order to make life better for every American.
Better for every American. Oh, President Biden. I don't know if you remember what your administration actually did when you were president, if you can remember when you were president, but this was the administration that put the progress flag in the middle of two American flags. This was the administration that declared Easter Sunday of 2024 to be not Easter Sunday, but Trans Day of Visibility. This is the administration that welcomed bare-chested trans people on the White House lawn and posed with them for photographs. Thank God that president is gone. Meanwhile, the Trump administration continues to undo a lot of that insanity from the past in the Biden administration. Rachel Levine, a biological man who pretended to be a woman and became deputy secretary of HHS, was now renamed. They would say he was dead named as Trump's HHS secretary, released a photograph replacing Rachel with Richard, his biological name and actually his real name. And of course, the woke scolds are going nuts and claiming this is outrageous bigotry of the highest level. But no, actually, it's just nature is healing. Then there's the example of Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo Yiannopoulos was a firebrand figure of the political right, first in England and then in America. He was a MAGA movement member who wanted to introduce and mainstream homosexuality to the GOP. Well, he went on Tucker Carlson to talk about how he regrets mainstreaming homosexuality in the GOP. And later in the interview, he even talks about how no one's actually gay. But watch.
I have to be honest with you. I bear some responsibility for this because it was me 10 years ago mainstreaming homosexuality into the Republican Party is the great regret of my life. More so than anything I've done to my own soul, which is a lot. It's the great regret of my life because it has given rise to horrors I never imagined. I mean, say Lenin said, all revolutionaries come to hate their children. Well, the gay horrors that I've given birth to, Lady Marga, Nick Fuentes, keep me up at night. They keep me up at night.
Yeah. Yiannopoulos also has been celibate for 5 years after coming to realize that the homosexual lifestyle was destroying him. He repudiated the prevailing cultural consensus also, that homosexuality is innate. Here he is saying nobody is actually gay. Watch.
Nobody's gay. In almost every case, and certainly in every male case, it is a trauma response. It is not a sexuality. It is not part of what you are or who you are or a component of your personality. It is a set of behaviors that emerges in people with a number of very easily identifiable common etiology.
Yiannopoulos went on to recount that he decided he was gay at age 14 after he experienced his own family trauma, detailing how he was alienated from his biological father, whom he described as a bad guy involved in organized crime, and that his stepfather did not respect his privacy. He also said he engaged in sexual interactions with a Roman Catholic priest when he was a young teenager. Again and again, the prevailing narrative is that homosexuality is a deviant sexual behavior that is rooted in childhood trauma. Now, of course, people will adamantly disagree with this and call it an innate identity, perhaps even from God himself, to make you who you are, special and unique. But more and more we find the truth is actually the exact opposite. The human condition will respond to trauma in any number of ways. harmful, of course, to the person who experiences the trauma. Sometimes we rehearse the trauma in our lives because we don't know how to handle what we've been through, and we look for outlets and we look for places to find peace. Ultimately, there can be no peace except in the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. But not only are people like Milo and cultural commentators speaking out, but brave men and women who are just regular citizens and running for offices are starting to speak out in powerful and clear ways that we didn't hear for 40 years in this country. I give you this man in Naples, Florida, who left California to fight for freedom from the Pride movement in Florida. Watch.
My name is John Strand, 34108, and I am a precinct committeeman here in Naples. But before a weaponized DOJ threw me in prison for standing up to defend our republic, I first escaped the communism of California 4 years ago to defend liberty here in Florida, and to defend the morality that makes liberty possible. You cannot have one without the other. Let me tell you what I learned while working as an actor and writer in Hollywood. Pride is a very aggressive, explicitly sexual enterprise with a terribly destructive agenda, confusing, distorting, and then destroying the natural and healthy design of human sexuality. I also learned that this agenda is a key component of eroding the health and strength of the family unit, which is the core strategy of totalitarianism. This includes the usual suspects: Marxism, socialism, fascism, communism, Islamism, all the isms. They all lead to tyranny, and tyranny is our sworn enemy here in America. Now, did you notice a common thread in all of those isms of tyranny? They all feature deviant sexual behaviors. Again, you don't have one without the other. As councilmen, as elected leaders, we are not here to fantasize about utopia or hide behind the soft language of political correctness. Our duty is to speak the truth and to act accordingly with wisdom and courage, making tough decisions that protect our rights and preserve our freedom. The progressive and now radical left will claim this is a free speech issue, or otherwise confuse you with grandstanding about their right to do whatever they want, no matter how destructive. This is a lie. This has nothing to do with free speech. They have the same right to stand here at this podium like me and argue their position.
He goes on there, and I encourage you to watch the entire video. A powerful demonstration of common sense and decency being restored to a community at the local level. It is our country, too. We have a right to stand up and speak our mind about what we believe is right. Meanwhile, advertisers are getting in back on the nuclear family. Remember the nuclear family? Remember how Black Lives Matter believed that they needed to dismantle the nuclear family? It was a vestige of old racist bigotry. Well, it seems that the nuclear family is making a wild comeback in the advertising ranks, as Chevy just put out one of the most old school pro-family ads I've ever seen. And it's a long one, but it starts out like this: a Christmas story of a family going back to visit their loved ones.
Are we feeding an army?
And rehearsing their times in their old Chevy.
Did you get the casseroles?
In the past.
Backseat.
Watch.
Let's go. Come on, careful, careful, careful.
Where's the dog?
Kind of got my hands full here.
Willie! Don't keep all the good stuff to yourself.
I was just thinking about the first time that we did this drive. The great diaper explosion of 1992.
Anyone with kids knows what this is all about.
Uh-oh, the Christmas tree farm.
Don't even.
Is the one you want? You got it?
It's beautiful.
Got it.
Who doesn't do that? Put the tree on the roof and then lock yourself out of the car with the rope.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm just going to fast forward here. And so they just kind of rehearse their past, and you can watch the whole ad yourself. They finally get to the house where they've driven to hundreds of times for other family moments. And this time,
You guys just get in.
Yeah. Who's this little guy?
the house is owned by their children.
You look like an old friend of mine.
Come on in. It's freezing out here.
Yeah.
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
It's beautiful. The greatest journey is the one we make together. Good on Chevy. Old school nuclear family values. That's what the world wants. That's what will survive. Because, fun fact, scientific fact, only the nuclear family can actually reproduce itself biologically and thereby perpetuate the species. Now, we could have learned and avoided a lot of all of this shameful history if we had just paid attention to The Life of Brian. Yes, a 1979 Monty Python film that was intended to subtly mock Christianity actually also mocked transgender insanity. Here's that scene where one of the members of the cast decided they wanted to be called Loretta. And this is how it went down.
I want to be a woman. From now on, I want you all to call me Loretta. What? It's my right as a man.
Well, why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?
I want to have babies.
You want to have babies?
It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them.
But you can't have babies.
Don't you oppress me.
I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box?
Here,
1979.
I've got an idea. Suppose you agree that he can't actually have babies, not having a womb, which is nobody's fault, not even the Romans, but that he can have the right to have babies.
Good idea, Judith. We shall fight the oppressors for your right to have babies, brother. Sister, sorry.
What's the point?
What?
What's the point of fighting for his right to have babies when he can't have babies?
It is symbolic of our struggle against oppression.
Symbolic of his struggle against reality.
Exactly. It's symbolic of the struggle that we have just entertained for the last 30 to 40 years. And hopefully the struggle is coming to an end in the right direction. That's the content for tonight. We've got extra content for dependable members. Check it out at patreon.com/TimHatchLive. Lots of stuff to talk about on the extra content. Subscribe now for $10 a month and get in on that. You can also support us by purchasing merch at our shop over at timhatchlive.com. That's the show. I hope it's helped you. Let's continue to pray for a great awakening in our culture, that we can move on from this nonsense and back into common sense. God bless.